bidders, Bixby Electric out of Albuquerque, and the Electric Horseman here from Las Vegas. Electric Horseman was a low bidder. We're working through the contract documents, getting those executed right now. They're providing us with their bonds and insurance and all those documents to move forward. FAA has provided a grant for the work, 90% of the cost. We have a grant with the State Aviation Division for 5%. City will pick up the other 5% as their match. The bid, I think, was running roughly about $260,000. Excuse me. We did receive the submittals from the contractor Friday, so we'll be going through that. Not sure what delivery times are on the materials, but talking to Electric Horseman, once we get the contracts executed, notice to proceed started, they would like to jump on that, and they were talking December or so. The project will involve some airfield closures. We'll stage those, keep runways open, one runway anyways, while we're working on the other runway. Basically, the project is to remove and replace the airfield lighting and signs, get that all back up to speed, and then install some replacement supplemental wind cones, and then remove those old reflector approach light system structures that are out there too, get those off the field. So that's good news. I'm looking forward to that project. Other activities include we are getting ready to apply, excuse me, make application to the FAA for the airport layout plan update and master plan project. FAA, originally we had applied to State Aviation for that project, and they urged us to approach FAA for that. So we are doing that. We've had several discussions on that. It's on the CIP for I guess it's this current fiscal year. So we'll be making an application in the next few weeks to FAA for that project. There are two types of funds involved with FAA right now. One is our normal airport improvement program, where Las Vegas gets $150,000 annually from FAA for what they call entitlements. And then what they call the federal government passed, the Congress passed the bipartisan infrastructure law earlier this year, BIL we call it, because we need acronyms. Las Vegas also is getting some supplemental funding under that as well, $110,000 I believe. So we'll be using that fund to fund the master plan. Okay, and that again is a 90% FAA, 5 and 5 with the state and the city match on that. So that'll be moving forward as well. So, next projects up after that, I believe we've got some pavement rehab to do in the hangar area and the apron. Let's get back on that. Protective pavements, extend their life, and move forward from there. So, stands for any questions y'all have, gentlemen?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Just to refresh my memory, your company is working on the master plan, right?
We have not started. We're waiting on the funding.
Ah,
yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
In the master plan, will you include any, what I would call economic development kind of activities and thoughts and recommendations and that kind of stuff in that area?
The city has asked us to look at that. In fact, a gentleman from the Economic Development Department, Tim Agnew, approached the city some time back. I was hoping with the offer of some funding. I don't know that that's occurred, but there is a component, to answer your question, sir, there is a component in the master plan to look at the economic development of the airport property, look into that a little bit more than normal, if you will.
Good. And off the top of your head, what kinds of economic development would be recommended or put into a master plan for an airport like Las Vegas's?
The FAA rules require you to only only have a development that is consistent with airport type use. What's that mean? Well, it means you can't develop something that contradicts the use of the airport as an airport, right? It's a public use airport, that's primary. So what type of development would that include? I know that the city has been discussing things like a development of a movie studio or even solar, a solar farm up there, things like that. Those are consistent with airport use because they're not detrimental. They don't attract wildlife. They don't impact the aviation safety, if you will, things like that. What probably would not be good up there are, and this is going to be kind of far-fetched, but excuse me, just to make the point, putting in any sort of water storage ponds or anything like that would attract birds, stuff like that. We don't want to do that. Anything that would, you don't have that anymore around much, but we did have a place that somebody approached the community about a meat packing plant. That's probably not what you want around your airport just because of the type of activity.
Right.
So we would work with the city and see the parcels that are available on the airport are fairly limited. But if there's parcels just off the airport, can you combine that? Can you make that more attractive because of the airport? That type of thing. I think we would work towards that. I might add that because this is going to be an FAA-funded project, where FAA will be involved, and so their say-so really matters. So we'll have to run things by them. There are certain restrictions on an airport for airspace. We have to protect runway safety areas and object-free areas, and you have to protect the airport aircraft and the public that are traveling. You can't stick up cell phones up in the air that might harm the approach or departure surface and stuff like that. So we'll look at all those types of things with that. And part of the project is to update what we call the airport layout plan, which actually helps define those surfaces so the city, when they get a prospect in, can say, yeah, we can build a big hangar or a big building over there that's 110 feet tall. We can do that because it's under the surfaces. So kind of guidelines like that will help the city with.
And one last question.
Sure.
How far-fetched is it to consider in the master plan trying to get commercial service into here?
To be blunt, and
yes,
I don't mean
please.
to be pretty far-fetched.
And why is that?
Because our experience is you're going to have to pay for empty seats.
Yes, I've heard that.
So and it's up to the city, of course, or if there's grants available to pay for the empty seats, then it's not as far-fetched.
So in your mind, that's the major impediment for an airport like Las Vegas, is to move into the more commercial service area?
Yes, in my experience. Now, and you've got to look at the market, of course, and you have to reach out to airline. Maybe there's some partnerships that the city could form with a Raton or other airports that could, Clovis, for instance. They've got a flight now that goes to Denver, I believe. So is there a partnership available there that Clovis, Las Vegas, Denver?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Something like that. Okay. That's something you could look into. So when I say far-fetched, don't take it wrong. But there are some avenues that you have to do, understanding that it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive for the community to support air service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for being blunt.
Well,
Mr. Chair, I did have a question. I'll
Yes,
follow up on that. Would a fire academy be something that could be considered there?
I think so, and John and I and Danny, we've talked about that in the past, that there was some discussion about that. I think that's a viable development. Maybe not right up on the airport itself, but maybe down off a little bit. Part of that would depend on the type of training activities. If there's a live fire component to that, we'd have to be careful about that, and any impact, smoke and stuff like that would have on the air traffic.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You got anything, Doug?
Not off the top of my head, no.
And if I may, if I could follow up on the councilor's question a little bit, and this last year, the unfortunate circumstances we had and the big fire and the impact it made to the community. One of the things that may be possible is along that line, you had a lot of activity up there. In fact, they had to close your airport just for the activity for the firefighting, the aerial firefighting. So that's something that maybe not just a fire training facility, but maybe reaching out to the Forest Service or some of their contractors about possibility of setting up some sort of a base there.
Command.
Yeah.
Command center. or something.
Yeah, at least as a, maybe not permanent, you know what I mean? Could be, but as a, having the facilities to make the impact a little less on the day-to-day operations of the airport. I know John Sands were pretty well tied with those people up there, and I've not just heard it from you all, but from other communities that were impacted. After a while, even though they're paying the bill and they're doing good things, having a facility there to handle that, it would be a lot better. It would make everything a lot better. So there maybe there's a possibility on that too. Yeah.
I've got a couple of issues or questions.
Yes, sir.
I know we're talking about economic development, and I'm aware that at least several airports, Clovis, for example, did receive funding for water line. Could you comment on whether that type of funding might be available? Mike?
Yes, sir. I know a couple airports that have received some funding on water lines. I think Clovis, like you mentioned, was one. Moriarty, we actually were doing a loop. They have municipal water to the airport. It's similar to you guys. The airport's outside of town, really. But they have an existing line to the airport. Economic Development came in and offered a grant to the city of Moriarty to actually improve that service at the airport. And so we're about ready to advertise kind of an interior loop, if you will, to help boost the water pressures at the airport themselves. So that, yes, to answer your question, I think there is some funding available on that we can pursue. I know we did look earlier, I think it was this year, spring, John, maybe?
It was.
We did look at what the cost would be to extend the city water up the hill, if you will. It was, I don't remember the cost estimate on that. Rod and I were talking out in the hall before the meeting about our cost estimates right now with the construction pricing. It's kind of scary. So I think it was, from what I remember, under 100,000 or something.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
700,000 or so. That I don't remember quite, but it's not a small project.
It was 2.7.
Oh, it was, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a lot more than that, excuse me. So I am, see now? Want to put that in the record? It's a big project, really, because of the booster pump that would be needed to get the water up there. You could put a tank up at the top, of course, and provide the local pressure. Things like that. Thered be some engineering that had to be done. But to answer your question, yeah, I think there is some funding that might be available. How much? I don't know.
Yeah. One question along that line. I'm sure you've looked into the possibility of a well. I don't know if that's a feasible issue.
I have not. I don't know if the city has in the past. I think there was at one time maybe a discussion.
There is a well.
Sometimes
There is a well up there.
There is a well
Is it
there.
just a poor well?
It's sulfur water.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's not, it's drinkable, not really. It'd be good for fire. But it's not good water. Yeah.
And so that a treatment system, you'd say, would be out of,
Part of the problem is, it's a chicken and egg thing, is you get the water up there, but you don't have a lot of use right now. So a treatment system, you have to size it for the use. So what are you sizing it for? But if you start seeing the economic development and you get more water use, the problem is to get economic development in certain things, certain industries, you're going to need water. So it's kind of that chicken and egg thing. Part of the difficulty we had with coming up with a cost estimate earlier this year was what size of line would we run up there, what size of storage would we need up there, and it's that sizing that drives a lot of those costs. And so you want to make it where it's phasable, so you can increase things as you go, as you need them. So at that time, the money is just not, it's not feasible. Where the city has lots of different requirements and demands on the money. So we would need to find some outside funding, absolutely. So to answer your question, I guess there is a well up there, as somebody mentioned. It hasn't been in use for a while, but I think the water is pretty poor.
I'd like to change topics then, and Mike, every time I call for a briefing, the approach lighting for the runways is out. There's NOTAM'd out. Is that right, John?
Yes.
And so the only approach that lighting, or not lighting, but reflectors that's available are what you're planning to take out. And I guess my question is, the approach lighting's out, and now what? Very limited, but they're there.
So
That's, in this project, that's what you're doing, is and then this project doesn't include any new approach lighting, does it?
let me back up a minute. So when you say approach lighting,
The stuff we're taking off is not the retroreflective. I thought it was the 3 or 4 lights on the very end. The retroreflective is staying
Yeah.
the approach.
That's not what you said.
Okay, misunderstanding, sorry. It's just the ones on the very end,
stuff that's not used.
yeah.
That-
The retroreflective's not going.
But what you're taking out are the strobes?
Strobes, yes. We're pulling that out from
So-
the runway.
so the new
approach.
PAPIs, are they operational?
No.
The light bulbs, we're working on
And that
getting the
will be
quote for the light
fixed
bulbs.
with electric horsemen?
So,
No, I think
that's
that's
not
just
part of the
like
project.
no, it should be just the light bulbs, but we're out. So that'll be remedied soon.
Okay.
But the retroreflective approach on 0220, those are not getting removed,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you. That's my only questions. So thank you, Mike.
No, thank you.
Thanks.
I think the approach lighting is really important, and
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah, it is.
absolutely. Okay.
Okay, brings us to new business. I guess, hangar space leasing, I'd ask to put this on the agenda, and I guess the real question is, how many, kind of what's the status and how many spaces do you think we've got available, or would have available now, John?
As of right now, we got no availability for any more hangar spaces. We have the 3 planes on the top is full. We have carry lane in the bottom hangar, and the rest of the space is being utilized for storage of water for the city. So as it sits right now, when the city is able to get on their feet with the water and those pellets leave, we'll have the potential of 2 to 3 more spaces in there, but until we get, until the water's gone, we're not gonna have that. So, and not to jump back down to item number 11 on discussion items, but yes, the hangar door is working just fine.
The one,
We haven't had any issues with it. As to why Kerry has his plane outside, that's a question you need to ask him. I can't answer that.
I just was wondering, John, because
Yeah.
I saw the plane outside, I didn't know.
Yeah, no, everything's working fine. It's ready to go. But like I said, I mean, we're trying to do our part to help the city out, and they needed,
so there's
space.
water being stored in
Case- yes,
the
sir. hangar
that carries in?
yes.
And does that meet the ground assurances the city has given to the FAA?
Under the circumstances, yes. Jane knows about it and she didn't have a problem with it. Because technically, the federal monies have not been used on the hangar itself. So we haven't used any of their money on it, but yeah, under the circumstances, she's fine with it.
So did I understand you right, that there are now 4 people that rent hangar space at the airport?
From the city facilities, yes.
Yeah,
we have-
and there's
Then
Steve
we have
Alvis.
three private hangars,
Okay,
including Mr. Billingsley,
yeah.
Paul Luiki, and Steve Alves,
Yes,
who
okay,
have land lease agreements.
yes.
So Harper still has a contract then? and-
He does. I actually have a meeting with his ranch manager this afternoon. They're talking about potentially putting in a request with the city to do some upgrades to the entire hangar on the top.
The one I'm in.
The one that you're in, they're looking at potentially renovating part of it
Is that so that has a bigger opening?
so that we can get the plane in. So they're looking at the door to even see if it's feasible, and then we'll take it from there. And then they'll do a proposal to the city as to what they're proposing to do, and then they'll decide whether they want to do it or not.
Okay, so they still have a contract with
They
the
do.
city, and
Yes,
that's
sir.
why
Yes.
there's less space available, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, members of committee, if I may. So in regards to the storage of the water, the intent of the city was short-term. We've kind of left it in there a little bit longer than what we anticipated. But the plan is to remove all the water before it goes to freezing. So I'm estimating we should have it all cleared within a month. And then we'll have all that hangar space available.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a long-term, storage area for us.
So back to the question then, if the water was not there, you say you'd have 3?
2 to 3,
2
yeah,
to 3,
depending on aircraft size, I can't. I mean,
yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
And that would be at the bottom hangar, is that correct?
Yes.
And then the top hangar, I know you're up there, Doc. Would that, are they looking at maybe trying to convert that top hangar to a ground lease if they're gonna, I mean, what's the thinking?
My understanding is that, and I don't know, I haven't met with them, but my understanding is that they're willing to just put the upgrades in so that they can get their plane in. But until we see a proposal from them, I can't answer that question.
So if they were able to modify the door and get the plane in, would that impact the current use, Doc's use currently?
Well, of course it would, but,
Well, I mean, would it prevent him from, would he be moved out when the citation is in? Is that, I mean,
no, it would be, that's what we're gonna look at, is if it's even feasible to fit that aircraft in there. Prior to that, he had a citation too,
And it was not
and
a
it was
problem.
fine, it was not
Yeah.
an issue. So if this one
But-
fits and it doesn't impact them, then they're paying the lease. If it does impact them, then they have the option to stop paying the lease if they can't get their plane in, which
Right.
makes sense. But it will not impact him any more than the citation did. Should not,
And this is gonna happen when?
Yeah, I don't know that it's gonna happen at all. They're coming in to talk to me, sometime today, I'm hoping. And we don't even know if it'll fit.
Yeah.
So he's gonna bring some tape measures and some stuff so that we can even see if it's a viable option for him to fit that aircraft in there. It may not be.
Steve is who?
This is Harper?
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
Harper Cal.
yeah. Yeah, I knew it was Harper Cattle, but I didn't know who Steve was. Was that one of the Harper men?
Oh, did I say Steve? I'm sorry.
You said Steve Alvis.
Yeah, no.
Who built the
The
recent
other
hangar.
hangar. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a different guy.
Oh, is
Yeah.
Steve Alvis coming to measure? Or
No,
just-
no.
See,
Okay.
his ranch manager. I
Okay,
don't know if I said Steve.
Oh.
If I did, I apologize.
That would be Harper's
yeah.
ranch
Harper's.
manager.
Right,
Which his name eludes
That's
me.
all right.
I don't know.
that's
his
all
name.
right, no worries. Yeah, just keep me in the loop.
I will.
Let me know what's
I
happening.
will, and just like we did before, you have my personal number. If you're flying on
Yeah.
the weekends
Yeah,
or whatever the case is, I go up there. If in fact he's there, he's hardly ever there.
yeah.
But if he is there, I go out, pull the plane out, get you out. I mean, it worked in the past. It shouldn't be an issue,
Well, I mean,
Now.
that's hangar space.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, I know it's been convenient and nice
Yeah,
now,
it's been real
but
nice.
he does pay on that space in front of you. So,
But historically, you had 2 aircraft up there besides the,
Harper, yeah.
and so would that other space be available, or is somebody in that other space?
We got it rented. There's 3 spaces in that hangar and they're all rented.
Okay.
Yes, and the gentleman's name is
Gabe,
Gabe. I know that's not his full name, but
Gabriel V. Hill.
Gabriel V. Hill from Mora.
He's run the one that has.
He's the
He's
one on
got
the
the
opposite side.
172 that's
Yes.
in there now that wasn't there when his daughter was learning to fly in
Yes.
Colorado Springs.
Okay. Oh.
And
So those-
the city guys went up there. They're in the process of ordering a panel so that they can put that on and you can get back to the
Oh,
side that
yeah.
you like. So
It doesn't matter. I'd moved my plane over, I talked to Gabe, oh, did I boot you across the way? And he laughed.
he's a nice guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we don't have any problems.
Okay, so the final thing is Ray's, that old Stinson, is it down at the bottom half?
I can't get a hold of Ray. I don't know where he's at. His numbers are no good. I don't know if you guys see him around town, but I don't know what to do with that.
The Stinson is still sitting.
It's sitting there. It doesn't take up a lot of room. I mean,
Yeah.
I could still fit the
I still think that would be a great build-a-plane project for Luna.
Get Luna.
I mean, I suppose I could pull it out, but it's at that point, we got a piece of plane that's gonna deteriorate extremely fast on the ramp, which is
yeah.
just gonna be more of an eyesore for us, so.
Ray who?
Valdez? Yeah,
So, and does he pay rent on it
like I said, I haven't talked to him in
in years?
years. I think it's abandoned is what it is,
He did.
and I don't know how to proceed
No, he
with that,
doesn't.
so.
Huh, yeah.
Yes. The answer is no.
No, yeah.
I guess
Well,
one of the things, I agree with you, John, it's essentially an abandoned
Or for
aircraft.
Luna.
yeah.
We might want to pursue how to dispose of, I mean, we don't need it on the ramp, for sure. But I think we do need to think about how to dispose of that. I mean, it's appropriate. They're not paying rent. Is that,
I agree with that. Yeah, I was on that same thought process there because if he's not paying rent and it's utilizing some space in there, we do need to deal with it and dispose of it or whatever, but we'll work on that. Let's see if we can make contact with them somehow.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other discussion on that item, gentlemen? Okay, let's move to discussion items. Mike has already addressed the bid opening for the airfield lighting and signage. We look forward to that project getting
Yeah,
started.
That'd be good.
I've, if you fly in here at night and you're not familiar with the airport, it's kind of confusing. The signage that you're putting up will really be helpful, but during construction, it's still, so just be, I guess I would ask that you be sure the contractor is maintaining the construction signing that you specified, Mike. That's,
It is.
there have been times with other contractors that the maintenance was not very good.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll work, of course, with John closely on issuing notice and stuff, and things are closed.
But keeping one runway open would be much appreciated.
Yeah.
Sure.
There may
I'm
be a
sure-
potential, Rod, that we may have to shut both of them when they're doing the intersection. I mean, and you know that.
Yeah.
You should know that.
I
So,
understand.
but we'll coordinate that. They're really good. Electric Horsemen, you guys all know them. They work with us really well. I don't think that should be any issues with that. Orlando's gonna be, from what I can tell, he'll be the guy up there. So,
He does a good job.
yeah.
Orlando
Gold,
Gold, I think. Yeah.
Gold.
Orlando Gold. And he was the one that they put the pappies in, 3 years ago, I guess, 2 years ago. They did other work up there previous to that, right, John?
Yeah. They've done all the,
They're capable.
So they're familiar with the airport then,
yes. So.
man, but lighting isn't,
I don't fly at night, so, yeah, I try not to get caught that
I
way.
don't do it on purpose, but
Yeah,
sometimes
but
I
it
get caught.
happens. It does happen, and lighting is good.
Item 2, master plan update, Mike's already discussed that. Any other issues? Item 3, status mobile gas truck. And I'll defer that to John.
Okay. Like the minutes implied last time, you know, we had some issues. We spent over $9,000 on the truck. We paid a company, I believe out of Texas. They came down, they did the work. They didn't check the truck. We put fuel in it, plugged the filters. They were then supposed to get us a quote so that we could revise our PO to get the filters, a couple extra filters, purge the system, and get it recalibrated, which that's part of what we need to do to get it in service. Again, I discussed this last time. It's been really difficult here in New Mexico to get people to work on our equipment. D&H is one of the major contractors here in New Mexico, and they won't even provide me quotes on stuff. Kachina will do it, and then I forget the other company, Cutter, can do some of the work, but they are not certified in the state to certify the meter. So we're pretty limited on who we can and can't use. Victor is my point of contact for this company, and he has not returned my phone calls. He has not returned my emails. He has not returned Mr. Gurule's emails. So we are currently in discussion with the city as to the viability or feasibility of continuing to put money into that truck and what our options are at this point. Like I said, I mean, we put $10,000 in it, and the last 2 years of operation, the truck was just, in 2 years, pumped 3,000 gallons in 2 years.
But it hadn't been in
So,
service, John, has it?
the last 2 years that it was in service, the total gallons that were pumped in 2 years was 3,000 gallons.
Was that
You know what I mean?
prior
So,
to the self-serve, or
no, it was during the self-serve. I
the
mean, the
self-serve
self-serve is,
tank was there?
we're selling fuel out of the self-serve, we're just, people
Yeah.
don't want it off the truck in the quantities that we have. Poses some issues as far as shelf life. If we fill up the truck, it's 1,200 gallons. we got 6 months to move 1,200 gallons, and we're only moving 1,700 to 2,000 in an entire year. So option would be to put less fuel. You guys as pilots should know that if we have tanks that are empty, we build condensation, water. So these are some of the things that we're discussing and trying to figure out what our options are. We do have gas fuel, we do help people throughout the day as they need, you know. So that's really the status update on that until we come up with the solution. That's probably where it's gonna stay, you know.
So nobody returning your,
I can't get them to return my calls, you know, and,
Even in that right there, so even filters on that, I have gas truck are $4,000, $5,000 a year that we've got to replace, so we're not even making enough on fuel sales on the avgas to pay for filter changes and stuff like that. Yeah, so they're pretty high up there.
financially,
basically
as a
it's-
business, it doesn't, if you're gonna run the airport as a business for profit, it really doesn't make sense. But, that'll be a decision that comes from further up. I mean, the information's there, and if, I know it's a service, and I get that, I do, but if it's costing us that much money, I don't know if it's a service worth keeping. That's really,
How many people ask for fuel out of the truck?
anymore, hardly anybody. I mean, and after COVID, that contact separation that people have, you know, they don't really, most of them don't even go inside to use the restroom, you know, so.
That service is for diesel or gas?
It's avgas, it's for piston airplanes.
Yeah,
it's
Just like,
aviation gas.
it would be like an unleaded fuel.
As opposed to jet fuel.
And what would it take for someone else to deliver it or have an MOU with somebody else?
To deliver it,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Well, it's not the delivery that's the problem, it's the truck. We get avgas, we have
There's
tanks.
avgas there.
We have tanks and we have self-service. What we don't have is a full-service truck.
Oh,
And the truck's old, and like I said, it's really not pumping,
oh, I get you.
yeah.
I get
Okay.
you. I got it.
So in your judgment, those that have used the truck in the past could have used self-service? Is there any reason why anything coming in to that airport couldn't use the self-service?
You know, we get people that are elderly
Ah.
the ladders, and we go and help them with that. The hose is, you know, it's not
heavy.
light,
Yeah,
you know, so, but we do provide that service, you know. If we see people struggling, we go out and help them, or if they come in and ask, we don't have a problem going and helping them, you know.
okay.
It's a convenience. It's a convenience that costs 40 or 50 cents a gallon. I don't know what you charge, John, but,
Yeah.
So do you
Do you
price
use
it proportionately?
Are you an
So-
elderly person that?
often I do. Often I do.
There you go.
So,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
it's real nice
Yeah.
to come in, put your plane in the hangar, and just stop by and say, you guys fuel that airplane when you get a chance. And,
Yeah.
and
It is.
that is, it's convenient. And
Especially on high wings. And I can see the elderly people on high wing
Yeah,
planes.
yeah.
That's a heavy hose.
Yeah,
Yes.
dragging that up on top.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know, I think it's, but by the same token, we make some tough decisions as far as, I mean, we can't waste money that, you know, that's the call, and I guess what I would say, at least to city staff, is I feel like we ought to be able to make a recommendation to the council, or, but I'd like a kind of maybe a written report or something, proposal, as to whether we keep it or we don't keep it. I mean, my personal preference is I'd like to have it.
Yeah,
But as a,
as a business,
as a business, I understand. So I think it would be appropriate maybe next time, gentlemen, if y'all could maybe make a presentation and then ask for this body to make a recommendation.
Yeah.
And is that,
I'd like to add a little bit more to it, because we
Yeah,
had a
me too,
discussion
when you
with
get
the
it.
city manager this morning in regards to that. And the first question is it feasible, okay? So we have this truck, it's a 1987, correct, John?
I believe so. It's a international diesel.
So it's a 1987
Then
truck, it
that's-
doesn't really
that's
meet
cool.
emissions, and I don't
Those
even know if
antiques,
it'll
man, they're
really
worth something.
meet airport specs anymore. Maybe Mike could, shed some light on that. But there's all those questions, and most of it is feasibility and then also liability. So we got this truck that really holds 1,200 gallons. We gotta keep it full, as John said, because of condensation. You can't keep it half full, because then you're gonna create a lot of condensation. So in the liability aspect of it, we don't want to be fueling planes if that tank has condensation, possible water contamination.
well, that's what the filters do.
Yeah, and of course
That's
the
what the
filters are
filters-
supposed to do that.
Well, I think they do. Because if they don't, there'd be a lot of people in trouble.
Right,
So
right.
I think maintained in accordance with standards, you're not gonna have, I mean, you may have to replace filters, but I don't think you're gonna be putting more, because that's really not been a problem. I mean, I sure hadn't heard of that being a particular problem.
What's that?
So part of the discussion, that being said,
Water in gab gas.
That goes in an airplane tank, yeah.
I mean, I know that you need to maintain the filters. But.
and it's required once a year
Right.
to do that. But just the fact that we're not flowing enough gas out of that tank to keep it fresh, and of course, John's having to empty the tank every so often just to refresh the gas, so it's going from here to another tank. Okay, so we have to transfer what's remaining, correct, John?
Yes.
Every 6 months, he transfers back into the big tank.
Right.
And then replenishes with fresh fuel, okay, or he tries to keep it fuel, whatever he needs to do, keeping it full. But the thought in this was maybe possibly, because we're gonna have to upgrade that truck, modernize it or whatever you wanna call it at some point, but maybe looking into like a smaller unit
Yes.
That's
that'll
my-
just hold,
my
300 or
point.
400 gallons. And then it'll be a lot easier to maintain and keep the gas fresh in there. But just to let the committee know, we are in discussion already with the city
Very
manager.
good.
And,
I wonder if there's not a portable, pull behind.
Right, and that was
little
part of the
portable
discussion as well.
Unit that would be cheaper to maintain.
Right.
Than that truck.
So that was all part of the
I don't know.
discussion this morning. So we're gonna
I
look
think
into
it'd be
those
worth
options.
Looking into.
And then also, another question was, is there funding, maybe that'll fund a new truck or some type of unit? And that
A
was the
unit,
thing too,
not
we
so-
thought maybe a
Not so much
pull.
just a whole truck,
Yeah,
yeah.
a pull behind unit that's a smaller
Something.
tank, something that's gonna, be easier to maintain and keep it out of condensation.
Mhm.
But it's all already in talk
Okay.
but yeah, if you all need a report on that, we can.
We
probably put something
appreciate
together.
that. I think it would be appropriate for us to at least make a recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, small tank,
Mm-hmm.
you can,
Just some other unit that'd be easier to maintain. And then again, we got a 1987 truck that apparently it still runs good, and probably at that, it might even be low mileage and stuff, but at some point, I don't even know if it's insurable anymore. We're looking into that as well, because our insurance will only insure it to a certain age. So we gotta make sure that that unit is still being insured and is insurable, but all that's in the discussion already, and
So you,
And just to add to that real quick, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
The other thing that that's gonna be taken into consideration as far as, another unit is the fact that our jet truck is also an 80 vintage
Oh, is that
GMC
right?
gas motor. So the other thing would be to weigh into that is, do we spend the money on an avgas unit of whatever that is, or do we look at upgrading the moneymaker of the airport,
But you,
right?
you have to have a mobile
Jet
jet
truck.
fuel truck,
So,
I
you
would
know,
think.
that truck is questionable at best.
Do they make a truck that'll hold both types of fuels, or,
I believe so.
because that might be an option there to upgrade to one unit that'll have jet
Maybe.
fuel and have gas, you know, separate, smaller tank or something.
Have you seen one? I've never seen one.
No, maybe not, I don't
I don't
know.
know.
And I'm thinking maybe not, because you don't wanna mix up the hose.
Yeah.
You know what I
You know
mean?
what, I
But-
think you're right, because it would be against regulation to have, for the cross-fuel cross-fuel, you're right, it would have to be two separate units.
I kinda wondered
You're
about
right.
that.
It'd have to be two separate tanks.
Because they gotta be
Right.
labeled, yes, so that,
Yeah, the truck has to be labeled, because you see that guy pull
Yeah.
up and if,
Yeah, if
If
it
it says
says,
jet on there, you
it
better-
says 10A, don't.
you better
put your-
stop
Yep,
Well, they have different size
yeah, it won't fit.
nozzles.
but they do.
Well,
but you-
avgas will fit in the jet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And
Backwards, yeah.
and jet nozzle will fit in my tanks. My plane's
Really?
old enough, I'll guarantee you.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
I wonder, I don't know, I haven't checked mine to
I'm-
see.
I don't know about yours, Doc, but I can show you mine. So, that, anyway, you see a truck come up that says jet on it,
Yeah, yeah.
you better, anyway, enough said. Any
Yeah.
other discussion on that? Motion, okay. Clean up around Paul Lewiecki's hangar. I don't know who did it or what you said, but thank you, John, for encouraging those guys to clean up that mess.
they got it, within the week, so.
Airport master plan, I don't know, that got in there twice. Status of Steve Alvis hangar, it's finished?
It's complete.
Are there
Is it
any-
complete?
Any issues the city has with that hangar?
At all. He's been more than easy to work with. He's accommodated everything that we've asked him to do. And I think the finished product is
Nice.
nice, including his attention to the dirt work and, you know,
Landscaping.
cleaning, yeah. So that's gonna be nice even for us to help keep clean, not unlike Paul Lewiecki, who's been tough. You know?
Okay.
And then there's that little T hanger there, I don't know, I can't get it.
That T hanger, oh my goodness.
It's awful, isn't it? Okay, we talked about, the next one is the garage door on the storage building, still waiting on overhead door, is that?
So is that the one behind,
Behind you, yes,
Behind
where we
us.
keep the big
Yeah.
mower. So, I mean, there's nothing we can do, I don't know. We just keep waiting until
so
it gets here.
the orders in to
It's-
overhead door
yeah.
and,
They're just back ordered, I guess, or, I don't know. It's just one of those things where,
I think
Things
they're
are
giving
getting
an
harder and harder
anticipated
to-
date, right?
I
When is
think
it?
this month was supposed to be in, but, you know.
So they have represented to you that it would be finished?
It should have been in this, in October, but I'll follow up, because it was supposed to be in last month as well. So they're, backlogged as well. So I'll follow up on that and have you, it might be done by next meeting.
Maybe did. Florage fees, are we done florage fees on these?
yeah,
airplanes?
yeah, I think that's the standard procedure for the airport, moving forward, is applying flowage fee to, contractors that are doing work out of there that are bringing in fuel. So they're going to be assessed a 20-cent flowage fee on every gallon that they use.
How do you determine, how do you measure that, John?
They gotta log it, what they put in the planes, and then they bring the log in and we go through it. So that's how we do it.
And is that working?
It is. So, as of now, it is. I mean, I suppose that if they figure out a way to skim it, I mean, I don't, I can't be up there,
no,
I mean,
watching them. fuel,
no,
huh?
I just don't have, it's not my job, right? So, all we can do is trust that they're doing it fairly. you know, and, you know, if it seems funny, these planes are, the flowage fee on this is not gonna be as big as on the helicopters. I mean, they don't burn as much. But the company is Aerotech out of Clovis, Ted Stallings. I think you remember who he is. He hasn't been down, but his son, Cameron, is the one running the business, or at least the operation out here, and he's really good. So, at least for this contract, I don't foresee that being a problem, but I can't go up there and stick private tanks, be climbing up there and sticking them and checking them every day. I just, you know.
Generally, they're pretty good people.
Are they?
Yeah, I don't think we've got a problem, but I just wanted to address it. Okay. That brings us to item 9, budget report on fuel sales. And I guess you sent us budget.
Copy real quick this morning,
And as I looked at this, the flowage fees aren't, maybe you can show me where they appear in this 2022 year-to-date 22 to 23 year-to-date activity.
I'm thinking that just looking at this, I think that was just included in the fuel sales. There's not a line item for flowage fee.
yeah, there is.
I did not get a copy of that for some reason.
I didn't.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't see that either. Well, that's all right, I'll just,
Here's a
I'll
copy,
swing
here's
it.
another copy.
Go ahead.
There you go.
Oh,
Thank you.
All right.
So basically what it's reading is they're a negative 5,071 right now, but they haven't sold all their fuel, so once the fuel sale, they'll be in the plus. And that goes for everything that's under the groceries, the taxes and processing and that. So pretty much, once the fuel sales are sold, they'll be in the plus.
The fuel sales from all the activities going on,
That was the one you got last month, or last quarter.
And this is just fuel that he purchased for the airport.
So, we're showing $112,000 worth of fuel purchased, and only 111,600 sold, and then you've got a tank full of fuel or half full, or
That's the inventory that's still at the airport, yes.
And this is up to date too.
but that does the $112,000 fuel sales do include flowage fees.
So, again, with the conversation I had this morning, I don't know. Yeah, it does. The flowage fees went directly to us, so it does include the flowage fees. Because that was charged as fuel up there.
Okay,
So
so if
the way we did it up there was we got the total number of gallons that they pumped, and then we charged them 20 cents as a fuel sale up there. We don't have a credit card set up for flowage fee, so what we did is we charged them essentially 20 cents on a gallon that we didn't pump out. It was just, so it shows up here as a fuel sale, or in the fuel sales, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah, that's, I don't know, that makes, I don't know how you do it if you didn't do it that way, if you didn't have something else set up, so. But with that said, we looked at least in surplus last year, but so far this year, we're down $5,000, and recognizing there's some inventory, fuel inventory, but, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, do you keep track of the fuel that is not sold, that's in inventory? I don't know how complex the accounting system is with with
Yeah,
the
that's,
city?
that's not.
That would be over on the balance sheet of the city, not on the income
Yes.
statement. This is
Uh-huh.
more like an income and expenses. Do you know what dollar amount that you're showing for inventory over on the balance sheet?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't be hard to figure out. I'm sure we could pull the gallons up and see what I paid for it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
a
that's
hard-
how you would
and that-
That's
value
not a hard number to come up
No.
with, but obviously I don't have that with me.
it. Is it in the
No.
in the realm of $5,000?
More than that.
I would think.
Huh?
And the
It'd
way
be a lot
the
more than
cost of fuel
$5,000.
is right
I
now.
don't know how much fuel
Oh,
you
that's
got on.
right.
Yeah,
If you had 5,000 gallons, you'd be more than $5,000. It'd be 25,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
maybe not that much. but
Yeah,
at least-
so realistically, we're not doing horrible. We're pretty close to black.
Okay,
On the-
that's,
on-
thank you, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
is Where you think we might be.
Yeah, we're in line, which is actually pretty good for an airport our size,
Yeah.
honestly. But yeah, between avgas and jet fuel, we have more than 5,000 gallons sitting up there.
Okay, there you go.
And I see we've got a place for revenues from the hangars, and I assume that at least the land lease agreements were paid last year, and they won't come until next spring for this fiscal year.
I don't know what the schedule is for Mr. Luiki's. That was done and they pay up here. I don't know what those numbers or when they come in. I would assume it comes in at the date of the contract. I know that, Steve Alvis just paid his. Again, I think the T hangar is overdue. No, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, they go, Paul Luikis comes directly over here and is deposited through, and I don't know how that's arranged.
But it is.
It is in there. It is part of the hangar fees.
And so the only other revenues that the airport has, these are essentially all the revenues that the airport has.
Yes.
And
Oh, no. We have, the rental of the radios, radio equipment up there.
that's FAA?
CETA. It's a company that does, radio equipment for the airlines.
And they pay 1,000 a month, so every year we go and do it.
They
And
pay
it was
us.
at 12,000, so I just sent the invoice now.
End of
last month.
October, yeah. I mean, September.
And so that would show up as rental income, is that right, Dan?
Yeah, it will show up in the rentals.
Okay. But it's just, we haven't received any?
No. We did receive the 24,000 from the 2 years prior, so this one I just submitted an
Yeah.
invoice for, this coming past year.
They haven't paid for this year, that's why it's not on there.
And then, have we ever explored, doesn't the state police have radio, aren't they using that tower as well?
What was it? I don't know.
The tower down at the bottom, I don't know what the long-term agreement or who pays or if they're paying up here. That tower was there long before I started and I don't know who has radios there and who doesn't and who's, I would assume that their agreement is with the city and comes through here, but
And they don't have anything as far as agreements for those towers, if I'm not mistaken, when I looked into it.
no,
No.
so.
Well, if there's no agreement, would it be appropriate for the city to pursue that, or, I mean?
Jeez, I don't even know if anybody has them there, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't even.
I'll have to look in again, but I don't think there's any agreements to them. No.
That's a good question. We'll look into see who is actually occupying those towers now and see if there was an MOU or some type of an agreement in place.
So the
And for how
top
long?
towers, all the towers on the top and the building that's behind ours, that bunker,
Yeah,
that's all FAA stuff, okay? There is some radio equipment in there that belongs to state forestry, but I believe that FAA stuff, like the VOR and stuff, we cannot charge rent on their,
installation.
on their stuff.
Right.
So, but the bottom tower, I don't think that that's FAA, I think that's state. But, I think it's a state tower, so maybe G, I don't know. I think it's state, and they might have an agreement with the city to not pay rent because they give us money. But I don't know.
Okay, if we could,
Oh, I see.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. And so the VOR is a federal installation?
Yes.
And because we receive federal
Yeah.
funding for the overall operation of the airport,
There's a,
we can't charge them additional for that VOR rental.
right, and, your grant insurance is, there's a grant insurance, I don't remember which one it is, but it says that FAA installations on an airport
Yeah,
are not, are free of charge, if you will, that's my language for the county.
yeah, okay, that makes sense then, John.
But as far as the other tower, what John's talking about, boy, finding out who and what agreements are in place and who would have knowledge of that, we could start with state aviation, see if they could help, but that's
Just
that's
cut it.
fast.
just get a cutting torch, cut it down.
Yeah, then you'll find out.
Yes.
You'll find out who it is.
Turn it off and see who calls, but find out which one.
No, we're not gonna do that.
But if we could check on that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Finally, this gross receipts tax, I know there's fuel taxes that go to the airport improvement fund, or the airport, is this separate from the fuel taxes? The fuel, when you say gross receipts tax, I'm trying to understand what gross receipts tax you're paying or what's in this line item.
So that's a question you're gonna have to ask somebody else, because I don't know that. I have no idea what that is. I know that we get monies from the state aviation, kind of like the highway department, from gross receipts tax and fuel sale tax, but I don't know what this is. That's probably a finance question.
You may have, I don't know, and of course not a tax accountant, but you may have gross receipts on hangar lease and stuff like that, I don't know.
But not this amount.
Not
It's
that amount.
$7,000.
I think maybe it's just the label, but there is a fuel tax, state fuel tax on that.
Federal
that
tax.
Goes into the state, and that it does help fund the state aviation division, which provides some of the grant money here.
Could y'all clarify that for us, please? Okay. Any other questions about the financials, gentlemen?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 10, phone line update. I was hearing good things coming into the meeting. I'd like to hear them formally, please, John.
So the phone line, according to CenturyLink, was completed, whatever the circuit was that they were working on. They completed that. They are finding some other bugs along the way that they're working on. They're gonna replace pedestals, and so it's still, from what I understand from them, an ongoing project. But since they've done the work, we've had pretty good results. I mean, the rain last week, I mean, it rained, and we had some issues. One of CenturyLink's guys that was up there, I'm sure you guys all know JJ, he was talking to me this morning about the project and just trying to get something to give you guys, and they're working on it still. So they're trying to iron out all those issues on their end, and we've already seen a huge improvement on ours. So hopefully that will be resolved soon. And talking to Kenny right before the meeting, it sounded to me like he was still pursuing mobile dial-up, at least as a backup. But he's had some issues with finding a company that works with antiquated equipment, modem dial-ups, stuff like that, so.
And that's the kind of equipment we've got for our card reader? Is that what I'm hearing
They're
there?
dial-up, yes, they're modem dial-ups,
Really?
yeah.
Wouldn't, doing broadband wireless connection wouldn't be any better?
Again, I can't answer that.
Yeah, 'cause
I'm
I
not
know-
a phone guy.
Talking to Ron Doss with, Desert Gate, he said he put a wireless broadband tower up there and, you know, just a little antenna, because he's got a straight shot, it wouldn't take, he said it'd be in a couple hours, he'd have the job done and have a pretty reliable internet-based card reader.
I've not talked with him. I think last time you told me about this, I had asked that he go up there and give
Kenny
me,
was gonna-
oh, Kenny has? Yeah, then I don't know, I can't answer to what conversations they have.
Well, there he is.
Since I was listening in the background.
It was an accident.
So the big issue with the self-fuel station is that it actually has its own internal modem that's built into it. So and it's an old analog modem.
So that's something with the tanks themselves that you can't change?
Yes. So
Yeah.
we did look at bringing it, doing like a broadband and
Yeah.
trying to push it through there, but because it's not a digital signal, we would have to put a kind of basically another piece of equipment to transfer the analog signal into a digital signal to go out over the internet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the issue that we've been having is
Yeah.
finding that link right there.
Are most of those tanks done that way?
A lot of fuel farms are of that age, yes. You're not alone in that.
Well,
In the,
that's kind of wild, because I know Ron said, yeah, I could get a signal there. It wouldn't take me an hour to just put everything in, and I got a great shot. But if
Yeah, 'cause
it won't talk to the tank,
Like
it won't do any good.
The handheld credit card units that they use inside and stuff, those ones we would be able to tie in because those ones actually they're actually a digital signal and they connect, they actually do a digital dial-out. But these pumps, the equipment that's inside of the pumps is probably like from the 80s, I would say.
It's not even that old, but it's the old technology.
Yeah.
so what would the fix would be to upgrade that system? Is that,
Or CenturyLink, get CenturyLink to do their
It's
job.
internal to the system that's supplied, so you'd actually have to replace that whole system.
Yeah, we would need to replace the pumps and everything for it.
the pumps?
Maybe not the
The
pumps, but.
Well, not the pumps, but
the
the-
internal workings of that
Yeah.
control panel, so I don't know what it is, but it's a situation that's at other airports as well.
And what are they doing?
Yeah, what are they doing?
They have a good phone line.
They just, one of them just got a phone line replaced last year.
Really? So, old wire, just a wired phone line.
Copper's your friend.
Twisted pair, it's called.
Wow.
But if the digital world goes down, you can still sell fuel.
Well, which goes down more often?
No, it's just that, it's very similar to what John mentioned earlier about getting somebody to come up there and work on your trucks, and D&H doesn't really care about small airport, fuel farms, because there's not business there. It's a business model. They're interested in the pilot truck stops, the Costco's and all those, or that's
Yeah.
their, so to upgrade your fuel farm credit card system, it's a major deal.
Wow.
And those kind of upgrades are $100,000?
I don't know. I don't have any idea.
I haven't even looked into it to see.
Yeah.
I could tell you how much the annual maintenance and everything else is, but
On,
as far as replacing it, we haven't looked at. at doing that.
Okay.
Well, I wonder if, you
I
know,
think that we're hoping that these steps that we're taking and
via CenturyLink.
will be via CenturyLink will mediate the problem.
Yeah.
And hopefully we won't have to look at spending X number of dollars on a system that works. It's just the phone lines are an issue, you know, and
God, you'd think they'd get a reliable phone line.
again, it's kind of like the water situation. It's kind of hard to get them to replace a phone line for one customer. You know, that's a lot of infrastructure investment on their part for, what do we got, 3 phone lines, 4 maybe?
But
Yeah.
doesn't
You know, so-
FAA have, but, I mean, it's not just the city, it's all, doesn't FAA have phone?
Yeah, they got 2 or 3 lines up there that I know of.
And the weather service has a phone line for the weather station up there.
Yeah, because
That's
you
part
can't,
of the FAA.
you can't
Yeah.
call,
Oh, it is? Okay.
when it's down, you can't call in and, you know, usually you can call in and get the ATIS.
Yeah.
And, when, yeah, phone lines are down, you can't get it.
And Doc, there's hundreds of customers like me beating on CenturyLink to get my phone line replaced that got burned up in the
Oh,
wildfire.
gosh.
There is that.
So
Yeah.
I think you're hind tip, okay?
Okay.
Are there any
Well, no, the airport, we need to, that's important to get, to be able to get fuel. There was a young lady flew in there on one weekend and couldn't get fuel, and she said, well, I'll follow the highway up to Raton and maybe I'll make it. Well,
Jeez.
oh boy, that didn't sound real good. So it's just, golly, you would think it
cases
would
like
rely
that,
on
if you're
that
there,
old,
You need to call and get one of us up there, because we can bypass the phone system and take,
right.
like we did with Rod, a picture of the credit card and run it later, rather than letting her take off like that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's options for that as well. I mean, they're not solutions, but they're options, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah, she shouldn't have gone.
I am still pursuing though, secondary backup through Cell. I'm working with a company right now that has a product that they have developed to do this. It's just being that it's an airport and it's a fuel station, they want to do extensive testing and make sure it's gonna run before they sell it to us, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that, at least that's a backup, like what Doug said, it's pretty important. Anything
I
else,
mean, it
gentlemen?
doesn't happen very often.
Hopefully it'll happen less.
Yeah.
That's
Now
the
that
whole.
is that line now.
Get CenturyLink to, I like JJ, he's a good guy.
Well, my
But it's hard.
understanding is that Rod should have connections there. I don't know why we don't have a new line there.
Not that good a connection.
I think it just got tossed back to you.
Anything else before we hear a motion to adjourn, gentlemen?
Yes, sir. I'd like to bring up one other issue, just from a discussion standpoint. I'm not sure what the charter says about the maximum number of members on this committee, but I think we have 4 now, and one of them is unable at this point, I think, to be here. And I think maybe in the future, we might want to consider thinking about adding new members to the committee. And I just throw that out as kind of a discussion point for future kind of activity, okay?
I do think we're in a situation where Sean's just probably
Yeah.
not able to come.
Yes.
And so I think we should look at maybe what procedure will be to look at another member,
Make it like a 5-member or
Well-
replace?
replace Sean, I think. Because
Replace
there's,
a replacement?
yeah, I think that would be, so if, maybe we could discuss, y'all could check on that and bring it up the next meeting. Because Sean's, he's tied up with that stuff down in Laney now,
Yeah.
so I think
Do
that's.
you think
what's
we can
focused.
have him resign and then we can move forward?
Well, if
New
that's what we,
appointment?
if
I
that's what
think-
we need to do, I'll be happy to talk to him.
I think that should be the process. We gotta have a resignation from him first, and then we can move forward with assigning somebody else.
Kelly would be good.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, there's
we-
multiple.
yeah, There's others.
Yeah.
Let's, but with your concurrence, I'll call Sean and see if he maybe would resign and make space for someone that's.
Yeah, if he
just
can submit
see
a
what-
resignation letter, and then we'll move forward immediately on that. And how do we
Sounds like a
appoint,
good idea.
how do we appoint a new member? Is it through the committee, or is it council, or
I think that comes from council.
Yeah.
from council?
Mayor appoints the committee members, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, the
So we
mayor.
submit the resignation to the
Right.
mayor's office and
That's what I thought.
Thank you.
Yeah, please. Yeah, if you can get that resignation, then we'll move forward on that. Thank you.
That's a good point.
Any other issues, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
I'd accept the motion to adjourn.
I will move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your attention.
Yes.
Thank you guys for your support. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Oh, didn't know what we were doing.
Hey, John,
Sorry, Wayne. Oh, no problem.
did you need this?